and welcome to another talk here. Standing up today, did a lot of sitting. So, gonna talk a little bit about single lines. Maybe I'll start out by playing a little bit. And so one of the goals that we're gonna set out to work with here is to play the changes through a tune. So I'll start out by playing a little bit, and then we'll talk about kind of what approaches I might be taking. Okay, so when we play single lines, we can play through changes, even a cappella. So and this is a really important skill to have. So whether you play something solo, like solo guitar or chord melody, or anytime you're playing alone, to kind of outline or kind of communicate what the chord is, like what the changes are, and then even if we're playing with a group, performing or just jamming or what have you, it's important to also have that going, so we're not necessarily leaning on other musicians for the changes, and to just have kind of an awareness of really the basic gist of it, and then also kind of the specifics of what's happening at any moment in time. So I'm going to change my view here. I'm recording this for a podcast, but so I'm going to keep this as audio only friendly as I can. But we also have, as a benefit to our members here on the YouTube channel, fretprints.com. You can find that, or through youtube.com/fretprints. We have some videos, close-ups of the guitar neck and everything. Okay, so one thing is, even if you play arpeggios or don't play arpeggios, being aware of where the chord tones are and playing them maybe at certain times, you can outline the changes in that way. So of course you could exclusively kind of play chords, but you might want to mix, like I played a little bit there, you might want to mix something else in as well. Right. So we have scales that we could play. Or modes, or even kind of maybe more exotic sounding scales. But if we're kind of thinking about those chords while we're doing it, then we can kind of anchor it in a way. So we have the arpeggio, and we have really we have four notes there, right? And then we have another 8 notes available to us on the chromatic scale, so really can play pretty much anything, but kind of again staying rooted in the chord itself. And I'm going to mostly probably talk about chords. We'll see what else I end up talking about, but we also have scales like bebop scales that can kind of bridge some of the tones. So there we have an 8-note scale, and we're basically hitting some of the consonances on the beats there. So if you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, right? Then we'll kind of hit some consonances, the root, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and the root again. Okay, those are some very consonant tones on that sound. Okay, so kind of bridging between the 5th, since the 5th is a whole step away from the 6th, right? So they're playing a chromatic note in between. Okay. Now, the first, let's say, 4 chords, we can play all these major 7 type things. So if you're, let's say, not, you haven't outlined all the patterns and everything, or all the shapes of the guitar, then you could take some content and you can maybe move it up 3 frets. And then it moves down by half step. So let's say you came up with something like so I played kind of the same relative 4 notes there. I played the 3rd, 5th, 7, and the root of each chord, right? Or you can kind of take something like that and maybe mix it up. So okay, and then it kind of changes it around a little bit, doesn't make it quite as obvious what you're doing. So so that's one stage that you can work at, or that we can work at. Now, another thing that we can do is try to keep these changes, but maybe stay in a position. So that gets us to kind of a little bit of a deeper level. So if we were to play, okay, and then kind of go, kind of staying in about a position. So I moved from 5th position into 6th position. If you want to take it really far, then you can really get into kind of anchoring the 2nd finger, right, and then playing and kind of staying in position, playing through all the changes. That's very thorough. So that's a good exercise to try to work at. Well, we know about these chords, so we talked about this. Okay, so we can visualize those chord shapes, all right, and then we get into some other progressions. Now, the next progression is a 2-5-1, right? So that is something that is a progression that's very often played. So we want to be kind of comfortable with that, sound, and you can really focus on the 5, and then the 1. So okay, there's a lot of it available to us for this. So we have, and I think I talked about this a little bit with yesterday's talk. Is we have really all the 9s. Okay, really all the 6s, or both 6s, and both 4s. Okay, and then the tones of the B flat 7 itself. So it's really, you might really try to think about a lot of chromatic tones, and or maybe substitutes for the dominant 7. So maybe E7. Okay, so then you maybe say, okay, single line is play F minor to the E dominant, and then to the E flat. Or you can start playing around with the four chords that you could associate with the diminished scale. So let's say, so we talked about E would be included in that. So B flat and E, right? But also D flat. Let's hear what that sounds like. So. Okay, so we have that sound. Okay, doesn't have quite as much pull, but it's just another sound. It's another thing that we can do. Okay, let's see what else we have. We have a G, right? So we could have F minor, G, and then the E flat, right? So they have these different, kinds of motions around things. So I won't go too far, but really you could play a lot of dominant. So you could play maybe D, and then play E flat or E. Really a lot of different things you can do there. I won't go too deep into that, but all right, so what else can we do? Well, we have another progression. We might say, okay, we might play E flat there for a minute, and then do our 2, 5, and G flat. So again, we can take a lot of this content up here. Right? So that's sort of a nice thing about, the guitar is that we have these shapes and we can transpose really easy just by moving a contour of a shape over just those frets. Right. Okay, so the progression, we go back, we go back to this. Another thing is to think about, what impression does that make, to have, what impression does that have on the ear to go from E flat, to the G flat major 7 over the E flat. And we talked about this yesterday, I believe, or the day before, both. But so that is a minor kind of sound. The ear is going to hear that as minor. So go. Okay. So we could also think, okay, well, E flat major to E flat minor, right? Okay. And that's almost, 2, 5, 1 down there, kind of like we talked about, but we have major. So it has a particular sound on it. All right, so then we get this. Well, let's talk about the last section. So we have this F minor. It's the 2 chord. And then we have D minor 7, flat 5. So those are very closely related sounds, right? If we were to compare, F minor 6, right? That would be kind of the first inversion of the D minor 7, flat 5, right? So really kind of one note difference between those 2 chords. Right. So we can use some similar sounds, right? Okay, now it starts to hit this G7. So another thing that we can do to kind of work with some changes, especially if something's going by pretty quickly, is we might play a pentatonic sort of sound. So that's what I just played there. So we have the G7, but I'm putting a flat 9 on it. So that gives us a pretty compatible sound with the D minor 7 flat 5. And those are usually kind of linked up in their own 2-5 progression. So we have a 2-5 of the relative minor. Okay, so we can even view the D minor. It's almost like a G sus with a flat 9, and then we kind of let that sus resolve into the 3rd. Okay, and then we go to the C minor. So we can think about the relatedness of chords. So keeping in mind that in music we only have, I say only, I mean, it's a lot to work with, but we have 12 tones, but we have lots and lots of chords. So there must be overlap, there must be commonalities. So, and there are. So if let's see if we play C minor. So here I'm playing on the top 4 strings. I'm on 8th position. Just kind of borrowing that with my first finger. And let's say we go to second inversion of the C minor 7. Gonna watch what happens if I go to A minor 7 flat 5. We're only gonna change one finger. And the 4th finger's moving down a half step. Everything else remains the same. So that's again similar to what we looked at with the F minor and the D minor 7 flat 5. Okay, here we have a C minor 7 and an A minor 7 flat 5. So we can use this knowledge of chords and how chords tend to move, how voices tend to flow, to inform our melodic playing. So we play through. And like I said, on guitar, right, we had this. I just played the same thing, right? I just moved it down from 10th fret to 5th fret. I just came up with something different, but that's kind of available to us. Now, we want to, at least I would hope, I would think, we would want to be able to play changes in just one position or move in a couple of positions or have that control. But if we're still working that out, why not, use what we know, use what's available. So if you have something like that, so that would work well on that change, right? And then we have a 3, 6, 2, 5 to 1. All right. So then we're kind of through all those changes. So even though we can play maybe somewhat outside or a variety of things, we always want to be kind of anchored in whatever the changes are for a particular tune. All right, well, that's going to conclude our talk. We went through the progression basically one time, kind of an informal talk today. So I hope everybody's enjoyed this. If you're checking this out on the podcast, sure to visit the YouTube channel, if nothing else, and check out the member area where you can find this video. Thanks everybody for listening. Check it out, and I will see you all in the next one.